The World of the Demigod series. Book 2. The Prince of Fire, written by J. Wolfe, and narrated by Patrick Kelly Shannon. Date 2015, July 26. The beast of ice roared, raising its colossal axe high above its head. With a thunderous crash it swung downward. The blade howled through the frigid air like a guillotine of frozen death. But Jonathan Sears moved like lightning. He rolled to the side, narrowly avoiding the crushing strike as the axe slammed into the iceberg, sending a thunderous crack echoing through the floating glacier. Shards of ice erupted into the air. Snow whipped around them in a violent flurry. As he rose to his feet, Jonathan chuckled. "I am Jonathan Sears," he said, his voice calm, confident, burning with power. "Son of Agni, Hindu god of fire, sacrifice, and messenger between worlds." Steam hissed from his body. Heat surged from his skin. His red eyes flared like molten coals. He extended both hands toward the beast and unleashed a torrent of fire. The inferno erupted from his palms, roaring like a dragon's breath, searing across the ice in a towering wave. It struck the beast at its feet first, then climbed. The fire wrapped around the monster's legs, devouring the ice, then its torso, then its head. The beast shrieked in agony, its voice a chilling, cracking wail as its body melted rapidly, chunks falling off in steaming sheets of slush, until finally the creature collapsed and nothing left but boiling puddles and vapors. Jonathan lowered his hands, letting the fire die away. He smirked. "You've just been purified." Before Jonathan could even enjoy the satisfaction of his victory, something shifted. The wind changed. He paused, his body still glowing faintly with heat, steam rising from the ice around his boots. The sea was silent, but the air whispered. Something in it tugged at him. A ripple, a vibration only someone divine could feel. Jonathan's eyes narrowed, his breath slowed, his heartbeat synced to something far away. He heard it. A message. No voice, just knowing. The kind of knowing that digs deep into the soul and doesn't need to explain itself. His smirk faded. His gaze turned downward, somber. "Marquise," he muttered. The iceberg groaned beneath his feet, but he barely noticed. He clenched his fists, jaw tightening, and whispered to no one but the wind. "He's dead." He shook his head. "By a damn volcano?" A bitter laugh slipped out, sharp and pained. "You've got to be kidding me. Why didn't you call me?" His voice cracked, heat flaring behind his eyes. "You knew I would have heard you. I'm resistant to fire. I could have..." He stopped. A silence passed between words and heartache. His throat tightened. A sting not from smoke, but from grief. "Son of Zeus," he murmured softly. "You're with your mother now." He turned, looking over the black ocean beyond the flowing glacier, his voice low. "I guess I'll grab a drink for the both of us, brother." A single tear hissed down his cheek and turned to steam. "Rest easy, Marquis." The bar was dim, quiet, just the hum of low jazz and the clink of a few lonely glasses. Jonathan Sears sat at the far end, elbows on the counter, staring blankly at the wood grain beneath his fingers. The bartender approached. "What'll it be?" Jonathan didn't look up. "Vodka." The man nodded and reached for a bottle. "On the rocks?" Jonathan smirked. "No, thanks. I like my drinks warm." The bartender raised a brow. "Should I heat it up for you?" Jonathan leaned back in his stool, fire dancing faintly behind his eyes. "Nah, I can take care of it." The drink was poured and slid across the bar. But the moment it touched his hand, it froze. The glass frosted over instantly, ice crawling up the outside in delicate, spidery veins. Jonathan's smile vanished. His expression hardened. He felt it. Another presence, divine, familiar, annoying. A lazy, mocking voice called from behind him. "Thought I might find you here." Jonathan didn't turn. He stared at the frozen glass, jaw clenched. "What do you want, Vincent?" he hissed. Footsteps echoed across the bar floor, slow and smug. Vincent Green slid onto the stool beside him, his emerald eyes gleaming, blonde curls half tamed by a shadowy hood. "You know exactly what I want, Sears," he said with a grin. "I want you to work with me." Jonathan scoffed, shaking his head. "We've had this conversation before. I'm not interested." Vincent leaned on the bar with a casual elegance. "Come on, Fireboy, son of Agni, and me, son of Lo, the Celtic god of many skills and light. Together we could be unstoppable." Jonathan's stare sharpened. Vincent's voice lowered, venom slipping in. "Why waste your power protecting these fragile, faithless humans?" He tilted his head. "You want to end up like Marquis, dead, buried in glory, forgotten by the very people he saved?" Jonathan slowly turned toward him. His eyes burned brighter now, no longer with humor but with rage. "Careful," he said coldly. Vincent shrugged, unbothered. "I'm just saying his loyalty got him killed." A moment passed. Then Jonathan stood from his stool. The ice around the glass evaporated in an instant, as the air around him rose in temperature. He looked down at Vincent, his voice low and sharp. "Marquis had more strength in his death than you'll ever have in life." He turned toward the door. "And that's the difference between you and him." Vincent didn't follow, but his voice trailed after Jonathan as he left. "One day you'll see I'm right, and when that day comes, I'll be waiting." As Jonathan stepped out of the bar and into the dim evening light, the glow of the broken city reflected in his eyes. His boots crunched against cracked pavement, steam still rising faintly from his skin. He barely took a few steps before a sudden pulse of blinding light shimmered in the air ahead of him, and Vincent Green appeared. He materialized effortlessly, light rippling off his body like heat from the sun, arms crossed and expression smug. Jonathan scowled. "Why do you keep following me?" Vincent didn't answer, not right away. He raised his hand, and another ripple of light opened beside him. From it a woman tumbled out, collapsing onto the ground unconscious. The portal snapped shut behind her. Vincent didn't even flinch. He bent down and lifted her effortlessly, holding her in his arms like she was weightless. "Look at her, Jonathan," Vincent said, his tone cold and disgusted. "Look how weak she is, just like Marquis was." Jonathan's eyes flared, fire dancing in his pupils, but not at full blaze, not yet. Vincent smirked. "Not burning as hot as usual, I guess that's what happens when a volcano takes out your friend." Jonathan's heart clenched. His fist tightened. "How do you know about that?" he demanded, voice low, dangerous. Vincent shrugged. "I have my ways." Jonathan's gaze dropped to his own ebony-toned hands, scarred, still trembling faintly with rage. His mind spun, confusion, grief, doubt. Then barely above a whisper, "Why, Vincent? Why are you so obsessed with this?" Vincent's lips curled into something between a snarl and a grin. "Because we're better." He stepped forward, tone rising with venom. "We're God's children. Divine blood flows through our veins. Why are we lowering ourselves to serve these insignificant humans? These weaklings who whine and cry, never thank us for what we sacrifice." Jonathan shook his head slowly, still staring at him. "What are you even talking about? They are thanking us. I heard they're building a statue for Marquis in New York. They're praising what he gave up for them." But Vincent cut him off, voice sharp as broken glass. "He gets a statue for dying." He spat. He dropped the woman unceremoniously onto the ground and stepped closer. "Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. I don't give a shit about no goddamn statue." Vincent's eyes glowed. His skin pulsed with threads of golden energy. "I want them to bow to me. I want them to worship me, not mourn me after I'm gone." Behind his fury, light energy began to flicker across his body, pulses of divine power rippling off his skin in waves. Jonathan didn't flinch. He held his ground. "You want to be a tyrant," he said quietly. "Marquis died a hero, and you want to live as a goddamn monster." Vincent's grin widened. "Exactly. And I want you to join me in being that monster." As Vincent stepped forward slowly, the air around him flickered with faint pulses of divine energy. He reached out and placed both hands on Jonathan's broad shoulders, his voice dropping into a whisper. "Today is the day you make your choice." Jonathan's muscles tensed beneath the pressure of Vincent's touch. Still, he didn't move. Vincent leaned in, voice curling like smoke. "I wanted this to be your decision. I wanted you to come to me," he sighed, "but you haven't. You keep walking away, you keep clinging to their world." Then colder, "So now, you either join me or fall by my hand." Jonathan's eyes darkened. He shrugged off Vincent's hands and stepped back. With slow purpose, he tugged off his flannel jacket, letting it fall to the ground. Then he stood tall, a full 6'5" of divine heat, his chest rising and falling with tightly controlled rage. He glared down at the hooded man before him. Vincent might have been powerful, but to Jonathan, he wasn't even worthy of the title demigod. "Then you'll have to take me out," Jonathan said through clenched teeth. Vincent didn't flinch. Instead, he smirked and turned away slightly, lifting his hands as if brushing off the threat. "See, that's the thing, Jonathan. You're powerful, but you're stupid." He paused. The grin on his face widened as he added, "Tell me, how'd you drink freeze back at the bar?" Jonathan's brow furrowed. His fiery aura flared slightly. "None of us can control ice," he muttered. Vincent turned back toward him, eyes gleaming with predatory confidence. "Exactly." He raised his hand, and around Jonathan a faint blue mist began to swirl, previously invisible, now materializing like a frost on glass. "You didn't notice it before. No one would. It's invisible unless I want it to be seen." He snapped his fingers. From the mist, a jagged blue fang formed, hovering near Jonathan's shoulders like a frozen dagger. "I always have a plan," Vincent continued. "Your fire burns hot, I know that. My light alone can't touch you, but this..." He gestured to the cold mist thickening around them. "This is a divine sub-zero fog, something I created using particles of your own DNA." Jonathan's fists clenched, fire beginning to rise along his forearms. Vincent went on, circling him. "Every time you fight, every time you sweat, you leave traces behind. I gathered them, built this fog to recognize you, to attach to you specifically. And now?" He leaned close again. "It's slowing your cells, freezing them from the inside out. That's why you're not burning as hot as you normally do." Jonathan's flames sputtered slightly. He grimaced. The fire was still there, but dulled, like a blade slightly blunted. Vincent stepped back, arms outstretched, his grin triumphant. "I don't need to beat you with strength, Jonathan. I already beat you with preparation." As Jonathan raged, he lunged forward, launching a monstrous swing at Vincent. But Vincent caught it barehanded. His eyes calm, Vincent tilted his head. "Too much rage. Not enough control," he muttered. Jonathan snarled and quickly lifted his knee, aiming for Vincent's gut. But Vincent weaved to the side effortlessly, evading the blow with almost inhuman grace. Before Jonathan could reset, a blinding surge of light erupted from Vincent's palm, exploding against Jonathan's chest and sending him flying through the air. His body bounced against the solid ground with a dull crack, landing a few feet away in the dirt. Coughing but determined, Jonathan rose with a groan, his legs shaky but strong. He squinted through the glare, trying to spot his opponent, but Vincent was gone. Suddenly he reappeared behind him. Jonathan's eyes widened barely, turning his head. Bam! A devastating kick landed in the center of his back, and Jonathan went soaring again, crashing face first into the ground with a loud thud, dust and small rocks kicking up around him. Before Jonathan could even react, Vincent appeared above him. With brutal precision, he slammed his Nike-covered foot down onto Jonathan's shoulder blade, the force cracking the earth beneath them, splitting the ground, like dry clay under a hammer. Then he did it again, and again. Stomp, Stomp, stomp. Each blow came down on the back of Jonathan's head, grinding him deeper into the dirt. By the third hit, he had created a small crater, a jagged bowl of broken concrete and dust, fanning outward like a war zone. Without a word, Vincent reached down, grabbed Jonathan by the back of his neck, like he was nothing more than a rag doll, and hurled him. Crack! Jonathan's body smashed into a nearby light pole, the steel bending under the impact with a shriek of metal. The pole stood at least 10 feet away, but the force of the throw was so intense, it not only bent the pole, and left a gouge in the ground where Jonathan hit. Dust, glass, and the hollow echo of violence hung in the air. As Vincent grinned at his handiwork, he turned slowly toward the crowd. Their silence spoke volumes, shock, confusion, fear, and yet they weren't bowing. He blinked, jaw clenching. Why aren't they bowing? Murmurs rose like a swarm of insects. Is the guy getting beat up the villain? I don't know, maybe they're both crazy. Vincent's smile twitched. He tilted his head, amused for a second, then anger started to boil. Bow, he said softly but firmly. The crowd exchanged glances, uncertain. A woman shielded her child. Others stepped back. I said bow to me! Vincent roared, his voice laced with power. The ground shook, cracks split through the pavement, light pulsed around him. Every man, woman, and child dropped to their knees out of sheer terror. A mother wept. Children cried. I am your god, Vincent said, voice low but venomous. You're all lucky I don't kill you for your disrespect. A burning glow formed in his palm, radiant and terrifying. He raised it, grinning. I think I'll make an example. One of you will be punished. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Eyes widened. No one dared move. But before Vincent could take a step, crack! A light pole smashed into his back like a fastball from a major league pitcher. Vincent flew forward, twisting midair before slamming to the street. The crowd screamed. From the debris, Jonathan stood, bloodied, eyes blazing, breathing heavily as he dropped what remained of the ripped-out pole. You talk too damn much. Whatever you did to me, Jonathan said through strained breaths, his chest rising and falling with heat in his lungs. It's starting to wear off. His voice faltered, but there was a dry edge of humor hidden beneath the exhaustion. I have to admit, it slowed everything down. My reaction speed, my healing, everything. He staggered forward, a faint ember trailing behind his footstep. But even you said it. I burn hot. Without warning, fire exploded across his arms. His skin lit up like molten steel, veins glowing bright as lava. Then whoosh, 2 wings erupted from his back, massive and alive, formed entirely of roaring flame. Heat pulsed out with each movement, making the air ripple. Launching forward, Jonathan gritted his teeth, scooped Vincent off the ground with one arm and launched into the sky, leaving scorched earth behind him. Wind howled in his ears as the crowd below faded into nothing. He flew fast and far, until he spotted a small abandoned house near the edge of the city, its roof slouched, its shed leaning to the side like it was waiting to collapse. Jonathan didn't hesitate. He flung Vincent downward from what had to be over 20 feet. The body crashed through the shed's roof like a meteor. What exploded on impact, the entire structure collapsing in a plume of dust and debris. Jonathan didn't slow. Came down like lightning, crashing feet first into Vincent's stomach just as he stirred in the wreckage. The force sent a shockwave through the dirt, creating a crater beneath them. Vincent gasped violently as the air left his lungs trying to crawl away, but Jonathan stepped forward, scanning the broken remains of the shed. He spotted a long, jagged piece of wood, a thick shard of the shattered roof, still damp with rot and lined with rusty nails. Without hesitation, he grabbed it. Stay down, Jonathan muttered, not as a threat, but a warning. Then he drove the sharpened wood into Vincent's shoulder. Vincent screamed. The plank tore through skin and muscle, skewering him partially to the ground. His body arched in agony, blood soaking through the side of his jacket. He tried to pull free, but Jonathan planted his foot on Vincent's chest and ripped the wood out, sending another wave of pain through him. Before Vincent recovered, Jonathan gripped him by the collar and hurled him through the opposite wall of the shed. Wood shattered outward as Vincent's body smashed through it and hit the dirt, rolling violently before collapsing near a small mound of earth. His body twitched, then coughed, hard. Blood spilled from his mouth. He groaned, dazed and panicked now, and fumbled inside his jacket with shaking fingers. That's when he realized he wasn't winning this fight. His thumb slammed against the hidden button. Hiss. A burst of icy blue mist sprayed into the air from a hidden canister beneath his coat. The fog curled like something alive, coiling with eerie purpose. It didn't float aimlessly, it hunted, immediately chasing the heat left behind by Jonathan as he shot back into the sky. Still on the ground, Vincent coughed up more blood and gave a weak grin through the pain. "You might have won this round," he wheezed, "but you just taught me how long this mist lasts." He spat again, wiping his chin. "And lucky for me, I always carry a spare." High above, Jonathan flew over the city of St. John's, wings of flame cutting through the night. He looked back. Barely anything was visible, but he felt it. The temperature was dropping. The warmth around him faded. The mist was coming fast, faster than it should have. Even flying at speeds that would make jets jealous, Jonathan could feel it closing in. The chill bit at the edges of his wings. He dove under a bridge, then climbed again, but the fatigue had already set in. His limbs grew heavier. His lungs ached. The frost was gaining. Then he saw it. The Atlantic Ocean, vast and black, stretching out beyond the city lights. That's when an idea hit. He flared his wings harder, flames surging with every stroke, the air around his legs starting to crystallize, frost building on the soles of his boots as the mist closed in, cold and relentless. He didn't slow. He dived straight into the sea. The mist followed behind him like a ghost, freezing every inch of water it touched. The ocean sizzled and cracked, ice expanding violently across the surface in jagged, spreading veins. But Jonathan kept pushing deeper, then angled upward, but the mist was still on Jonathan's trail, freezing every drop of water just seconds behind him, forming a tunnel of solid ice that crystallized in his wake like a death sentence. He burst from the other side of the water with a sharp gasp, soaked and shivering. Steam rose off his skin as his wings reignited, casting light into the night. Hovering above the waves, panting, jaw clenched, he looked back into the dark horizon. The chill was still there, still creeping. This wasn't over. His eyes narrowed. "I will kill Vincent." The World of the Demigods series. Book 2. The Prince of Fire. Written by J. Wolfe. And narrated by Patrick Kelly Shannon. Date 2015, July 26. The beast of ice roared, raising its colossal axe high above its head. With a thunderous crash, it swung downward. The blade howled through the frigid air like a guillotine of frozen death. But Jonathan Sears moved like lightning,